Fruit, even. Grapes or figs. Figs! But of course! This very morning he'd seen a platter of figs in the Pope's new study. Federico had been sitting for hours as Master Raphael Sanzio painted his portrait onto the wall, and the figs were a nice interruption. He and Raphael had eaten several and left the rest on a windowsill. Again Federico's belly growled, for a moment drowning out the snores of his governess in the next room. But the figs were all the way in the Pope's palace. Should he wander so late without servants or guards, without even waking Celeste? His stomach grumbled an answer. Yes. Quickly Federico pulled on silk breeches and hose. They did not match, but no one would see him. He strapped on a knife belt and tied a cloak round his shoulders, for a gentleman without a cloak might as well be naked. Setting a cap on his blonde curls, he took up the lantern that Celeste kept burning just in case, and tiptoed out the door. Federico might be a hostage, kept in Rome to guarantee his family's loyalty to His Holiness, Pope Julius II, but that did not mean he was trapped in his room. The villa in which Federico resided sat on a high, breezy hill, almost a quarter-mile from the Pope's palace. His Holiness had recently decided to link the two buildings with a long corridor in order to impress his guests. This corridor was still very much under construction, however, and few but Federico used it. Workmen stored planking there and unwanted furniture. At this hour, the moon gaped through the half-built roof. Federico's lantern made eerie shadows out of ladders and stacks of tiles, and a man hulking by the wall. Federico jumped back, heart pounding. It wasn't a man, just a large wooden box. Thank heavens his sisters weren't here, for they would have been frightened. But not him. Still, he averted his eyes as he crept past the box. At last he reached the end of the corridor and the heavy door to the palace. The Pope's palace, too, was under construction, every room and hallway requiring some new decoration or shape. Federico had to sidestep boxes of tools and tubs of quicklime as he made his way to the Pope's new study. He reached for the door and sniffed. Unwashed feet, dirty clothes, greasy hair. He knew those smells. "Master," he called, wrinkling his nose. "Michelangelo?" The study door burst open. "Who is it?" Michelangelo glared down, fists clenched. "Humph! Federico. What do you want?" What a strange creature Michelangelo Buonarroti was. The greatest sculptor in the world, more talented than even the ancients. But his pride drove away admirers, and his misery drove away friends. Years of looking up to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling had left his neck permanently crooked. Long ago he'd had his nose broken for bragging, and his father had warned him never to bathe. Michelangelo wasn't handsome to begin with, but with his mangled face and his stink. "Good evening, master," Federico bowed, breathing through his mouth. Why was Michelangelo here? "I've come to admire my portrait." That sounded more respectable than admitting to hunger. Hunger was what poor people felt. He slipped past Michelangelo into the study. Sheets covered the bookcases and the floor. Rough platforms allowed painters to reach upper walls. There, on the windowsill, the platter. Ah, figs! He held the platter out. "Would you like some?" Michelangelo waved the fruit away. "Your portrait?" he scoffed. "Portraits aren't art." "Sometimes they are." Federico's eyes went to a handsome blonde boy above the door. One small, painted figure tucked into a scene of 50-odd philosophers. "Such a joy it is to include you," Raphael had said as he applied the finishing touches. "You look wise beyond your years." Michelangelo glared at the crowded wall. "Everything that peacock knows I taught him." Peacock was Michelangelo's name for Raphael, to mock Raphael's fine clothes.